This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Super Crow stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Have you ever wondered or thought maybe that professional athletes and other famous people should devote more time and attention to supporting nonprofits, especially highly effective ones? Well, our guest today, tennis superstar Marcus Daniell, is doing just that, activating professional athletes to support great charities. You don't want to miss this episode, but welcome to the Super Crowd Presents Superpowers for Good. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is the founder of High Impact Athletes and tennis great Marcus Daniell. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. You really have had a truly stellar career. You retired recently, but you played at the highest levels for a long time, won a number of ATP tournaments. You're a big deal. As you think about your tennis career, you've had some pretty remarkable matches against Novak Djokovic and Stan Wawrinka. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but you've had some big matches you've won. What was the highlight of your career for you?
That's a really easy question to answer. It was winning the bronze medal for New Zealand in Tokyo in 2021. It's a different feeling when you're playing for your country, and that's far and away the best moment.
That's great. That was kind of a weird dynamic with that Olympics because of the 1 year delay. How did that COVID delay sort of mess with the timing and making the team and the preparations? Had you made the team in 2020? Did you have to go back and make it again in 2021?
Tennis is different to a lot of other sports with the Olympics, where we don't actually find out if we've made it into the Olympics until something like 6 weeks before they start. So we weren't confirmed in 2020. So it was basically just like another year. The tricky thing with Tokyo was coming from New Zealand, the borders shut during COVID. And so when I went back out on tour, I couldn't get home for a long stretch. So I'd been away from home for about a year straight, just going from hotel to hotel, and was feeling extremely burnt out by the time Tokyo came around. Trying to pull myself together and sort of find the energy to get through those couple of weeks and perform, that was extremely difficult. It was also eerie that, they'd built these big stadiums and there was no one in them. Because of COVID, there weren't any crowds. So to play matches that were such high stakes in front of big stadiums with no one there, it was sort of surreal. But yeah, just an incredible experience.
Yeah, it would feel a little bit like I would feel if I went to play tennis, no one would be there to watch. Now, who was your partner in that Olympics?
Michael Venus. So we played both Rio and Tokyo together. He's an incredible tennis player, has had a better career than me. He's really performed amazingly over the last 10, 12 years.
You had some big rounds in Rio too, as I recall.
We lost in the first round after having match points in the third set tiebreaker against Canada, who went on to play for bronze. And it hurt so much that Mike and I, after that match, sort of vowed to each other that we needed to come back and do better. So even in Tokyo, even just winning the first round was such a weight off the back to actually have some success at the Olympics. And then, come the end of the tournament, going home with, well, we didn't actually get to go home for a while, but, having a medal hanging around the neck was, memories that they will remain vivid for the rest of my life, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we're really not here to talk about sports. Tell us a little bit about how you decided to create High Impact Athletes and what it's doing.
Sure. So I got involved with giving actually at the moment where I started making money from tennis. So the lower levels of professional tennis are extraordinarily difficult. The expenses are big, but the prize money is small. So when I sort of broke through to the level where I was starting to actually save money at the end of the year, I just felt this really powerful urge to try and give back in some way. Sport is very selfish. It sort of has to be, but that never sat perfectly with me. So I didn't really trust the charities that I'd grown up around, and I wanted to do my own research. So I started doing some digging and came across this idea of giving effectively, which in a nutshell is just if you are going to give, it makes sense to try to do as much good as you can with whatever you give. That really resonated with me. So I started that year donating to charities that, by the research, had been proven to be incredibly cost effective. I made a 1% pledge of my annual income the following year. And that was actually a very meaningful moment for me because it meant that, if you make a donation, just a one-off donation, it's quite easy to forget about it. You make the donation, you feel good about it, and 2 days later, you've moved on. With a percentage pledge, it actually became part of my everyday life. It meant that there was a greater purpose to the grind of being a tennis player. There was a greater purpose to the sacrifice, to, every match that I won had something bigger off the back of it. And that actually really meant a lot to me. And so I built that pledge up over time. And I think come the start of 2020, I'd made a pledge to myself of 8% of my annual income. And then COVID hit and the tour stopped. And essentially, if you're a tennis player, a doubles player, especially if you're not playing tournaments, you're not earning money. You get given free stuff to wear and to play with, but you don't get money from sponsorships. So I lost my job and I had more time and space than ever in my adult life to sort of think about my place in the world and what I was doing to give back and could I do more. And I realized that I'd never spoken publicly about giving. And it was because I was sort of uncomfortable speaking about it publicly. I didn't want people to think that I was boasting or giving just to look good. But I realized that my discomfort really didn't mean anything in the face of, if there was a chance that by speaking out about giving, one other person would take action and give to these amazing charities and literally change lives, then my discomfort paled in comparison to that. So I decided to do something about it. And High Impact Athletes is the end result. I thought, if I find these giving effectively ideas powerful, then maybe other athletes would too. And so it's proven. I thought it would be me pestering my friends on the tennis tour, and very quickly it became obvious that there was a real appetite amongst the athlete community for something they could trust, which I think, being made by athletes, so that really helped. And also just the amount of research that goes into the recommendations. I think athletes really appreciate that. So, today we have over 230 athletes at the elite level from, I think, 35 different countries, about 50 different sports. And I think we're actually really just scratching the surface of
Yeah,
what we can do.
that's amazing. And together you've donated millions of dollars. Uh, Tell us a little bit about where you see the organization going now as you move forward.
Yeah, so it's become quite interesting over the last few months, and I think it's going to take sort of a two-pronged approach. So the core of High Impact Athletes is working with elite athletes, the Olympians, the professionals, and trying to get them on board with giving back in the first place, and then giving to really effective places, and then using their voices to try to mobilize their fan bases to do the same. I think that not enough of the world understands that there's a huge difference in effectiveness between charities, even charities working in the same cause area. Just the same as in business. Some businesses are really effective, some aren't. And just by giving to the best places, you can do multiples more good with your donations. So I think having more people thinking about that is a really powerful idea. So that's one side of high impact athletes that we're going to keep pushing. The other thing that's happened recently is we've become the global charity partner of a fitness race called High Rocks. And they're massive in Europe. They're expanding to the States, and actually I think we'll run events in about 27 countries around the world over the next 12 months. And it's sort of like a more accessible version of CrossFit, where they have these huge events that have 10, 15,000 people through them. Everyone has a great time, and we're going to be shepherding a percentage of those race participants through a peer-to-peer fundraising journey, raising for one of 4 different charity funds. That's global health, women's empowerment, mental health, or climate change. So we have the working with elite athletes on one side, and then sort of mass participation, peer-to-peer fundraising on the other side. And I think those will be the 2 pathways that we pursue going forward.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. As you think about this incredible work, are you finding the kind of fulfillment in supporting this effort that you did in your playing days?
That's a great question. Yes, but in a different way. I was asked recently if I felt a void in my life post-retirement, and I think that's a problem that a lot of professional athletes who retire struggle with. And my honest answer to that is no, not at all. And I think it's because I find this work so meaningful. I think I'm really lucky in that regard, because I see the impact the work that we're doing at High Impact Athlete has, not just on the beneficiaries of the charities that we support, but also on the people who give. I saw a beautiful message from one of our athletes where we give these milestone key rings to our athletes if they reach a certain amount of dollars donated to a cause area. And he sent this photo of him holding up his key rings, and he said, I never won an Olympic medal, but these feel just as meaningful to me. And that really touched me because, that's because of the work that we're doing at High Impact Athletes that he's had that experience, let alone the good that's happening at the other end with the charities. So yeah, I wake up in the morning really excited to go to work on High Impact Athletes, and I'm really excited about the potential that we have, because I think we can be a lot bigger, a lot wider. Some of the campaigns that we have in the pipeline with athletes, I'm super excited about. I think by the time this is released, we'll have a campaign live with the greatest slalomist, that's canoe and kayak slalom of all time, Jess Fox, who's pledging to a clean water charity. So it's things like this, seeing athletes like Jess get on board and get really excited about running a campaign and getting her fans involved. I think there's real power in that. And I think, this might be sort of tooting my own horn a little bit, but I really do think athletes have a place in society where they have a powerful voice. They can cut through different levels of society and speak to people that maybe other influential figures can't. I'm just really fizzed about using that resource, using athletes to try and do as much good in the world as possible.
Well, I think it's wonderful, the work you're doing, and I'm glad that you're finding fulfillment in this important, great work that you're doing. Marcus, we got to take a quick break. Forgive me, but folks, we're here today with Marcus Daniell, a tennis great, bronze medal in the 21 Olympics in Tokyo, but toured for 15 years, I think, around the world, won a number of ATP championships. He's a big deal. We're thrilled to have him. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to shift gears from talking to him about his High Impact Athletes nonprofit initiative to instead talk about his superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding. The book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference.
scan the QR code to get your copy. Supercrowd 25, where innovation meets impact.
18 hours of live content, 5 platforms, 1 global audience.
Join the largest event for regulated investment crowdfunding. Live pitches, expert panels, real change.
August 21st and 22nd.
Scan the code or visit thesupercrowd25.com to register free today.
Struggling to raise capital for your business? Unlock the power of the crowd with AI. My free guide, Crowdfunding Made Simple, walks you through every step to success. Get funded smarter, faster. Scan the QR code now for your free download. Welcome back, everyone. We are so fortunate today to have with us Marcus Daniell, the tennis great and founder of High Impact Athletes. We've been talking to him about his career and the remarkable work that High Impact Athletes is doing. But we're going to shift gears now to talk to Marcus about his superpower. Stick around. Marcus, you really have had an extraordinary career, and I have never been an elite athlete. I can't relate personally, as a peer by any means. But I understand the tremendous work, the tremendous discipline, and the tremendous accomplishment that it reflects to play at the levels that you played, to win the matches you won, the tournaments you won. It's a big deal. I'm also thrilled to see the work that you're doing with High Impact Athletes, millions of dollars going to nonprofits, activating professional athletes to use their influence for good. Amazing work. What is your superpower?
I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think my superpower might be the ability to deal with failure. And so maybe another way to phrase that is resilience, but I think resilience doesn't quite capture the core of it. I remember there are 2 examples of this from other people that really resonated with me. So one was Roger Federer's commencement speech at Dartmouth, where he went through, he's one of the greatest of all time. And I think he said something like over his career, he only won 54% of the points he played total. So that's a huge amount of failure, even with one of the greatest of all time. And then another one that springs to mind is Novak Djokovic had one of the best years of any player ever. I think it was 2011. And I think he only won 53% of all the points he played that year. So in order to be a successful tennis player, you must be able to deal with failure productively. That's points that you lose, that's games, sets, matches that you lose, because in any given year, you're going to be losing almost every week, unless you win a tournament, which is few and far between. If you're anyone but, the legends, then you're going to be losing pretty much every week. And how you deal with that loss and how you improve from that loss basically dictates whether you're going to be successful as a professional or not. And, I pride myself on not staying down from losses for too long, and also not staying up from wins too long. I think, trying to level things out is important. And the way that's translated into non-profit work, I think, has actually been very valuable with High Impact Athletes, because in some ways I am selling to athletes. I'm recruiting athletes. I'm talking about ideas that I believe in, the ideas of giving effectively, the ideas of giving back and supporting charities that do great work, to athletes who might have not thought about it. And so, I've had a lot of rejection from athletes over the past 5 years or so, but being able to stomach those rejections, learn from them, actually ask them, in the conversation, okay, that's totally fine that you don't want to be involved. Would you mind telling me why? And just learning more about the why of a rejection. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but I do think my superpower is dealing with failure and coming off the back of it positively.
That is, in a way, it is the heart of resilience, as you mentioned, but it is a really unique and powerful ability, because all of us in business do some selling, right? That you, like you're talking about, selling to athletes, and the disappointment that you've learned to master, the disappointment of those, 46% of the matches you might lose as a great athlete. There are challenges, right, in life, and being able to cope with them is just an invaluable skill. So I'm grateful that you shared that. um, I wonder if you can think of maybe the biggest loss you can remember, and how you coped with it. Maybe it was that round at the Rio Olympics that you mentioned, the match in Rio. Uh, What were the strategies you used? How did you overcome that?
Yeah, the Rio match is definitely one that comes to mind. And, I spoke earlier about how winning a medal for New Zealand was so much more meaningful because it was for my country. The flip side is also true of that. If you lose with your country's name on your back, it's more meaningful in the negative direction. So losing that first round uh, with match points, feeling like we should have won, feeling like a failure, and just knowing that we were so close, and we had our families there in Rio watching as well. So, losing like that in front of family, that stung in a big way. And the response to that, so there were some hours of pain after that match. I remember Mike and I had a conversation later that night. So I want to say about 5 or 6 hours after the match, where it wasn't until then, and we were sharing a room in Rio, it wasn't until then that we felt like we could talk about the match, removing the emotion enough to not get snappy about it, to actually have a rational conversation. And it was then that, we both admitted how gutted we were. We both admitted that we could have each done better, and owned it, and then said, okay, well, look, let's promise to each other that we come back and do better. So there was the grief, there was the negativity, the frustration, the anger. That will happen. Accepting that, processing it, and then I guess the resolution was, this isn't the end for us. And it's the one thing that's really difficult about the Olympics is how scarce they are. It's every 4 years, and you never know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. Injury can end a career in an instant. So making that commitment it's a bit of a dream. It's a bit of pie in the sky, but we made the commitment, and it felt like a bit of a full stop on the grief, and it felt like, okay, well, that sucked, but it's in the past, and we have a plan, so let's move on.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's great, great. Painful to relive that with you in a way, but at the same time, I think all of us can relate, and as to how we can then try to cope with the disappointments in our lives.
Can I share one more story from that Olympics?
You've got 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Okay, so one thing that made it easier was we were sharing the apartment with the New Zealand hockey team, and on the same day, the New Zealand hockey team were up 3-0 against Germany, who were the world champions in the quarterfinals, and they lost 4-3 in extra time. And I have never seen athletes more dejected or upset than that. So it put our loss in perspective. So I guess misery enjoys company.
Yeah, I get that. Quickly tell us how people can learn more about high impact athletes and how they can support it. What's the deal? How do ordinary folks like those watching participate?
Well, so the website that you see on the screen, highimpactathletes.org, that has a lot of the information around how we approach charity, the athletes that we work with, the campaigns that we're running with our athletes. And in terms of how you can support, look, all of the charities that we list on the website are incredible. So if you wanted to support those charities, you can donate to them either through the High Impact Athletes website or directly to the charities. As long as the funds get to where they can do the most good, that's what we really care about. I'd really appreciate it if you supported and shared some of the campaigns that our athletes are doing. For example, this Jess Fox campaign that should be live when you all see this. She's an amazing woman doing amazing things. So if you could share her story, share the campaign, I'd really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for being with us. We wish you every success in your effort to drive more money to effective charities.
Thank you very much for having me.
All righty. Now let's do some good.